Welcome back, MTG Joe here. Today we are going to be discussing some of the top options for the Mythic Invitational Qualifier this month, which happens to be the Alchemy format. This upcoming Friday, let's pull up a calendar, it's the 12th, I believe, or the 13th, one of those days. It's the best of one pre-qualifier, so if you have 20 play points, gems or gold, or if you got the play points from finishing top 1200, you can play in a best of one event. The following Friday is a best of three qualifier, and then the actual Mythic Invitational qualifier is next Saturday. It'll be best of three Alchemy, so all modes are Alchemy. Wizards chose this, don't bite the messenger. So I'm going over some of the decks. Now normally when we do these meta breakdowns, I highlight like 10 decks, highlight some fun ones, some unique brews. Given that this is for like the Mythic Invitational Qualifier, you're going to want to go spikier, you want to go more competitive. And there's really like 4 options. And in best of one, there's really like 3 options. And we're going to cover them here. As always, we get the data from Untapped GG, companion tool that runs alongside your Arena client. Tracks win rates, loss rates, deck collections, whole bunch of useful stuff. Free to use a bunch of the functionality. Link is in the video description. I'll also post these deck lists as well. So going in, Alchemy is supposed to be a live format, but Wizards has done a terrible job managing it, in my opinion. We've had various Cabaretti Revels combo decks that go infinite or near infinite and just really cheat and abuse mana that have been at the forefront. And then we have, we have a Naya version we'll cover, a Jund version that we'll cover, and then the other deck for best of one that I think is a very good choice is the mono red aggro deck. And this is a deck that I in part helped popularize. I got number 1 Mythic with a take on it, and we'll go over that. I'll also make some suggestions. I'll paste a link in the video description with how I would update the sideboard. I played it in best of one. I had an 80% win rate going through the ranks there. Platinum to Mythic 1, I had 80% win rate. But I'll put together a sideboard of what I think. In best of 3, I think you might be able to get away with Esper. In best of 1, Esper has a 37% win rate from Platinum to Mythic, so it's really not a good option for best of 1, which tends to be very linear. So jumping into it, the top best of 1 deck from a win rate percentage is the Naya Lifegain deck, which we have at... Let me pull up this list. Give me 1 sec, sorry. Untapped juked me out there. Nope. Did I choose? Okay. So in any case, it's got about a 60% win rate. So this is the Naya version of the deck. It is a life gain focused deck, so you have a lot of ways to gain life. You have the Angel package, you have Inquisitor Captain to find you stuff. But really kind of the engine of the deck is Cabaretti Revels. It lets you, whenever you cast a spell, you basically cascade in a way into a lower CMC card. So if you cast your 2 drops, you always find a Lunarch Veteran, and you kind of go from there. You make a really big board, really big lifelink, really big creatures thanks to like all the various ways to gain life, Trelasarra and Voice of the Blessed, and you can kind of make a wide board and then Jetmir for like overrun style effects. This deck's a bit more susceptible to Divine Purge compared to some of the others. You don't see too much of the combo deck. What you've also seen is some of these decks play Skyclave Apparition. Archon of Emeria has also been seen in some of these. In a sideboard version, you're going to want to play Archon of Emeria. With Cabaretti Revels, you're really in this deck only casting 1 spell a turn on average. Even with stuff like Inquisitor Captain, it just puts into play. It's not a cast trigger. So the Archon doesn't hurt you, where the Jund version you are infinitely looping and infinite casting creatures. And that version there does get hit by Archon of Emeria. In best of 1, this does have a slightly favorable mono red matchup depending on how the configuration is and kind of how the hands play out. I still had a positive win rate against it, but it was definitely the trickiest matchup I ran into. So now we're going to jump to the mono red deck. So this is the version of the deck. So folks have a 61% win rate. Like I said, with me, I was 48 and 12 plus a number of events that I did well in. So 80% win rate, and as like I said, got to Mythic number 1 with this one. So kind of going over the deck, there's a couple card choices. So Cemetery Gatekeeper is a way for the Jund combo that they can't beat you because every time they cast a creature, they'll take 2 damage and they'll basically burn themselves out. But the deck is looking to go very aggressive. An ideal hand is 1 to 2 Tiefling Outcasts, some burn, even a big spender. I have a full video detailing this deck. I played like an hour of it, kind of explaining the line, stuff like that. You have a burn package in here, so play with fire, can go face, can also deal creatures. Molten Impact is very important because oftentimes it's 2 removal spells for the price of 1. You have a 5th copy in Mephit's Enthusiasm, just to deal 4 damage. Like I said, the Naya deck tends to be a little bit tricky, so you want ways to deal 4 damage in the deck. Depending on the curve of your hand, one thing to note, if you're going Tiefling's Outcast, and then you have a big spender on 2, it's generally better with the attack to play the big spender, just to get the value in terms of mana efficiency wise. Pass the Torch is a 1-of, it's very good in this deck as well, just gets you recurring damage potentially with all your haste threats. Bloodthirsty Adversary can be a 2 mana 2/2 haste in some games, 2 mana 3/3 haste with Kumano. Late game it can flashback your removal spells as well. Traumatic Prank seems a little bit odd in a best of 1 format, but with being so creature heavy, it gets rid of a blocker, can let you sneak an attack, especially in the Naya deck. If they make like a big like Trelasarra or Voice of the Blessed, you can steal and kind of kill them. It also gets blockers out of the way, Diviner Hopes, stuff like that. Lets you attack in the mono red mirrors, lets you race by taking like their Thundering Raijus or something like that. Even like another Tiefling Outcast just pumps up your squad. Ambergris is really impactful by refilling your hand with cards. I've only specialized once or twice, but most of the time it's just a hand refill. One thing I would suggest is don't be afraid to play Ambergris on curve if it allows you to curve out with hasty threats. Sometimes that's the right play, and you might not discard your hand if you have like Raijus or like Molten Impacts against a creature mirror, but just continue putting pressure. And against the Naya deck, that's what you really want to do. Have a good curve and then start answering their impactful creatures while you keep pressuring them. And then on the top end, you have Thundering Raiju, which just puts counters on your team and kind of indirectly deals damage through the modified ability. So you can see my breakdown. Mira was 10-1, Naya was 5-1, but admittedly it was a bit tricky. This loss was to Black-White Vampires of all decks, with like Wedding Announcement. Wedding Announcement's low-key really good against this deck because you have a bunch of like Tiefling Outcasts that just die to it. The Heroic deck can be a little bit tricky. Tasha is the single hardest card to deal with, but the Naya deck's the toughest overall deck. So then going to Junstorm, this is 67% win rate. This is another powerful deck. So what you're using is like Racketeer Boss to give Acerric treasures upon ETB, or Ominous Traveler. So if you can give him multiples, then it basically pays for itself. You get infinite ETBs. The Ominous Traveler can be returned to hand by casting a 1-drop. So that's a kind of a way to loop that. You also have Goblin Trap Finder here. So if Trap Finder finds Ominous Traveler or the Acerric, if it goes to your hand and you can give this a treasure, you can go infinite. The Ominous Traveler with treasure and the cost reduction gets reduced. And then with Cabaretti Revels, you basically get your entire deck onto the battlefield in terms of creatures. You can enter infinite dungeons. You have Dina the Soulseeker, so any of the Lifegain dungeons also hits them. Same with Prosperous Innkeeper to kind of drain them out that way there. This is a best of 3 version, so you can see the sideboard if you want to play that as well. The Curse of the Shaken Faith is the sideboard tech that also works in that matchup when they cast more than 1 spell per turn. So like I said, I'll put together the list for the sideboard for mono red. I'll paste it in a deck list if you're interested. And lastly, this is a best of 3 deck. In best of 1, like I said, 37%, but this is like an Esper-y mid-range control. Mind Spikes is hand hate. Just a bunch of discards, some removal in there. Kaleem is a good tempo kind of play. Tasha is very impactful against some of these smaller creature decks. The thing is, like with Naya, they have to attack. With the Jund version, they don't need to attack, so it's less impactful in that regard. The one thing that's missing here is you definitely want Archon of Emeria in these decks. I think it's very, very important for this particular matchup. I would also not be against some copies of Divine Purge, to be honest. Dealing with all the small creatures, dealing with the treasures, stuff like that, slows them down enough that hopefully your Planeswalkers could lock them out. But definitely play Archon of Emeria in your white base decks. It just does a good job of kind of slowing them down. But yeah, that's it for Alchemy. Let me know what you're going to be playing. If you're interested in mono red, like I said, I'll link the video that I did on it for best of one. If you have any questions, lines, matchup stuff, just drop comments in either the mono red video or this video, and I can try to answer those to the best that I can. In any case, thanks for watching, everyone. Hope you have a great one, and stay safe out there.